The Armada and Chameleon has been a popular frame among freestylists and also first-time builders. Well, today we're taking a look at the Scorpion H220, and looks like this. It's available in two different shapes. The X shape like this, where the arms are a little closer together, and the H shape, where they're a little bit further apart, and I got the H. Not a whole lot of excitement here. Comes in a clear plastic bag, and the hardware with this is silver or chrome finished, so it's not an exact clone of the Chameleon, but we'll see how close it looks. So here are all the parts laid out. One thing I'm usually not excited about, and I kind of hate to see it, is when the arm is being held on by two screws and one of them also goes through and holds the flight board. Then you're usually running a screw up through the arm, through the main plate, into a nylon spacer that you're using for your all-in-one ESC or your flight board. However, on this one, it has these little metal washers built in, so that way you can crank down on the screws and they're actually pulling on metal instead of on those nylon spacers. So I think this build is going to be a lot stronger, mostly just because of these. When you're putting a quad together, you want to pay attention to which one has these two little holes. Two arms have it and two arms don't. The ones that don't go in the back, and the ones that do have it go up here in the front, and they're going to line up with these two little holes here. And what will happen in the long run is the metal piece will come on here and go around this, and then you'll have screws go through and hold it in place. Now typically I don't like the replaceable arms. I'd rather have a unibody. That's kind of more of a personal preference. And the one reason for that is because the arms usually get in place and they click back and forth. Well, however, this one has screw holes and they are cut just the right size. And so you kind of almost have to screw the screw through the holes instead of pushing it through. Now, normally I would think that's bad, but recently I've come to discover that I really like that because it makes it a little bit tighter and the screws have less of a chance of bouncing back and forth. And that got a nice snug fit, and the screw just barely is below the top, which is exactly what you want. At this point, there's just the four screws out here in the middle. And I always talk about the arms touching inside the frame in the middle, and they kind of play off each other's strength. And the nice thing about that is, even now, because they're all touching and because these are all pretty snug, I'm getting no play in these arms when I push it back and forth. It's actually very tight. Okay, so the nice thing is when I put the longer screws here in the middle, they're going to stick up above this, and then there should be enough room left over to attach the nylon spacers onto that. And like I said, the good thing is now you can really crank down on these, and they're going to put all that strain on this metal nut instead of up on your nylon spacers. Putting the Scorpion head together is a pain. I've had to take it apart 3 times to do it the right way. Basically, you need to start with this, put the carbon fiber on, and the little spacer you got included with the kit goes down here. Up here on the top, these metal pieces go on the outside of the carbon fiber, and then these 4 little screws go into these little pivoting pieces that allow you to mount a GoPro on top. And then, I didn't loosen it enough. But if you loosen it enough, this thing can lean up, and that way you can get a little bit better angle on your GoPro, so that way you can, there it goes, get a little bit better video. So it goes like this. You just got to tighten up whatever angle you want, and also it raises it up so that it gets out of the way of your FPV camera so you can see a little better. So here's the Scorpion frame fully built, and this actually looks pretty cool. The only thing that I'm initially concerned about is how long it is between up here and back here in terms of this thing flexing, but it looks like it's pretty thick, probably about 2 millimeters. We'll measure it in a minute. So it shouldn't, I don't know if it'll have too big of an issue flexing here. If you're really worried about it, it actually has holes up here. You can kind of see them here, and you can move this spacer up to there if you were, I don't know, super concerned about it, but I don't know. You kind of lose the functionality of this metal piece, which is to have your antenna go through here for your FPV antenna. Then when you crash, the stress is hopefully taken away by this metal piece, or the aluminum piece back here on the back. Also, it has the XT60 holder, and if you look in here, you can see those 2 little grooves on either side, and that's so that the metal piece, or the aluminum piece, will push down inside the XT60. So then when you're pushing and pulling the battery cable into here, it's going to be putting the stress on this aluminum piece instead of on the wires inside, which is going to be very nice. Also inside here, you'll notice there's a lot of room between the flight board and the back. That's good for putting your receiver back here, and also it has enough room back here on top. You can put your video transmitter up and hopefully it'd line up perfectly with the hole. But you have a lot of room here, and it's not real tall inside here, but because of all this extra room back here, you don't necessarily need a lot of space up in the front. So here are the 2 holes I was talking about earlier, and that's where I was saying this thing could move up if it wanted to. Up here on the bottom, the holes cut in the bottom piece don't really line up with the arms, but you know, it doesn't really matter that much. Once you get the flyboard in here, you won't be able to see through there anyway. And even if the holes were here, you still can't run your battery strap through here just because your battery would be a lot wider than this, and it would be kind of goofy looking. It does have 4 screws up here that hold this front little head on, and they actually are pretty solid. They go up into the metal up here quite a bit. So you do get a lot of strength from that. So here I have the rulers lined up along, well, close to the center hole. And if we follow it over here, you can see that it comes up to be about 220, maybe 221, 222. So 220 is a good name. Front to back motors, if I center this in the back, it comes up to be about 138-ish, I guess, from front to back. And from side to side, it comes in about 174, 173-ish. You can tell, again, this is the H frame because of the gap that's here. The arms aren't coming into the middle, they're coming out of the front and out of the back. And I think it just makes it look for a little bit more retro look, and also it makes it a little bit less like the X's that you see. Here I have my caliper out. Let's go ahead and get some measurements off of this frame. This arm comes in about 3.5 thick, which is pretty good. And the width here on these arms are about 14.1. Normally, I've been having a good luck with arms that are 4 millimeters and 15 millimeters wide, and this is just 0.5 millimeter thinner and 1 millimeter narrower. So I think this will probably be fine. I mean, heck, if you crash a lot, you probably got other problems. So the top plate is 2 millimeters, and these let's see what the whole thing is here. If I measure this whole bottom area, comes in to be about 7 millimeters, 8 millimeters. About 8 millimeters. Okay, so you got 3.5 plus another 2 and 2. Golly, that's 7.5. Okay, good. So the bottom plate, or the main plate here, is 2, and the bottom one is 2. Good. Inside here, let's see what the distance is here. We have about 22 millimeters of space, 23. Usually this space inside here is about 30 millimeters or 35 millimeters. So this is going to be a low profile frame. Also, the nice thing about this, one nice thing about this frame is it has 2 battery strap holes up here on the top, so you can run your battery up on top and strap it in with 2 battery straps. You think, oh, that's not a big deal. Well, it is nice when the 2 straps are on there and you never have your battery come off. Down here on the bottom, you could run it down here and you could run your 1 battery strap under your flyboard. If you wanted to have a second battery strap, I don't know if you'd actually get, you might be able to get 2 to fit in there, but not. Well, probably not, because then they have to go right through these screws. So you can get 1 on the back, or 1 on the bottom, and maybe 1 back here, but it's not going to be able to pull very tight because of the difference in the height between these 2 plates. So the space on here for your FPV camera is about 28 millimeters, and it has the extra little groove back here, so if you're using a run cam with the extra screw hole in it and the extra back plate, then you can adjust it where you want and actually use 2 screws to hold your camera in place. The arms have the holes cut for the 2200 size motors or 2300 size motors. I don't really know why anymore on these quads that run 5-inch props that they would put the 1806 size motor holes, the little small ones you usually see in here. I don't know why a lot of people still insist on doing that. But really, this one just has the 2300, so it should be more than fine for all your motors. Also, it has this little piece sticking out, and this is so if you hit the ground, it impacts the frame instead of on your motor, and hopefully this will take a beating and survive lots better than your motor will. I have a scale on here. A lot of the racing frames that I've been flying come in about 100 grams, maybe 90 grams, and a lot of the ultralights now are kind of going toward the 60 to 80 gram weight. Well, a lot of the heavier frames and freestyle frames are more up in the mid hundreds, and so let's go and check what this is. Yeah, this one comes in about 152.4 grams, so this is a pretty heavy frame, but I think that's also why a lot of beginners like it and a lot of freestylers like it. They can crash this frame multiple times and it can take a big hits and still survive, and chances of breaking something inside are pretty negligible because of how beefy it is. This is the Scorpion frame, and this is the B-Fight 210 frame. You can immediately tell how the arms are a lot more narrow on this B-Fight 210 than they are over on the Scorpion. Also, there's a lot less meat out here on the end, where this one has a lot more, and this one has the ability to take a lot better beating because these will, break a lot easier. Also on this one, like I said before, the screw comes through up into the little spacer right there for the flight board. And so I'm tightening the screws into the nylon spacers. And so the nylon spacers are helping with structural integrity of the frame. Whereas on this one, it goes up into these little lock nuts in here, or not lock nuts, just the regular nuts right there. And that's helping this screw to really lock down tight, and it's pulling against that metal, so you're getting a good tight fit, and the nylon spacer just hangs on to what's left up on top. And I think that makes for a lot more solid frame. So here's a 5-inch prop, and if I center it up over this hole, you can see it's clearing the front just fine. If I put it back here in the back, it also clears here. Now, because this is an H-frame, you have to realize the props are out beside the quadcopter instead of out in front of it or out in front. It's not going to be anywhere near the front of the camera. And these props, if you look here, they're going to be a little bit closer than normal between the front and back props. Now, side to side, I mean, it's ridiculous because the other one's going to be clear over here, so the gap is going to be a couple of inches. But here from front to back, it's going to be pretty tight, and that's going to make it fly a little different than a standard X would. Because of that, the aileron control is going to be a little bit more precise. It's kind of the opposite of a stretched X. On a stretched X, you get a little bit better pitch control. On this one, you're going to have a little bit roll control because of how wide the arms are. So this is a Scorpion 220 H style frame. If you're interested in this, I'll have some links down in the description. If you have any questions about it, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll try to help you out as best I can. And as always, thanks for watching.